Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Iggs, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the best picks of the tier list for patch 12.18. So the changes that got released on Twitter today that are most likely going to go through to hit the Rift, and this will also be the World's patch. So again, to know who your favorite players and teams are most likely going to pick on the World stage, make sure you stick around. But just before we get into the tier list, guys, this video is sponsored by OutPlayed, the ultimate video capturing app for gamers like us. So while playing, the OutPlayed app is going to automatically capture your best moments and biggest players on the Rift, and you can also manually record with a simple hotkey. Now, once your match is over, you can scroll through your clips, you can select the ones you want to show the world, share them with your friends on Discord and YouTube, and there's also a really easy to use video editor, so you can edit those clips so they look super clean for your champion main subreddit to watch and admire. And even if you're not playing League, the OutPlayed application supports over 300 games. So if you want an easy to use challenger application to record your games, to record your highlights, OutPlayed is definitely it. Check out those links in the description down below. Now, of course, we're going to start with the top lane tier list for 12.18, and in 12.18 there are some interesting changes to a few champions in the top lanes. The first of these, this being Nasus. So your W's attack speed slow decrease when you wither an enemy champion is going to be based more off the movement speed slow you actually give to them, so 75% rather than 50%. This might also be interesting as well for Nasus support and might actually make him viable in that role as well. And what Riot are also doing for Nasus is they're decreasing your ultimate's cooldown, so at rank 1 at level 6 by 10 seconds, so it's 110 seconds, and then it's going to scale down to 90 seconds. This is amazing in the late game, so obviously level 16, because you probably have Frozen Heart, right? You'll have a bunch of ability heads from your items, so your ultimate's cooldown is going to be very, very low, and because you'll be split pushing, you will have this up every time you fight. So really big buff for Nasus. This is why he's moving up into S tier. Now, other top laners who might have got hit, well, we can maybe mention Nocturne here. So your attack damage growth, this is actually getting nerfed, so for 3.1 to 2.6. This means that for Nocturne each level, you're getting less attack damage, so your scaling is affected. Now, I know that last patch, Nocturne's passive and his attack speed was buffed, makes him better during the laning phase, but honestly, I just would not pick Nocturne in the top lane, much rather pick him in the jungle. Just wanted to point that out to you guys. Now, also, Maokai is getting role adjusted, so these changes you see on your screen, these are more for the jungle role. So in the top lane, yeah, you might be able to pick Maokai, but you probably need like a tier early on because you'll run very quickly. And if you do want to play an AB top laner or maybe a tank, there is just better champions to pick. That's why Maokai is only in B tier or the top lane. Now, elsewhere, we also have Udyr getting nerfed. So if you're playing Udyr in 12.17 and abusing the Sunfire Aegis Demonic Embrace build, fair play to you. It is one of the most elo inflated builds at the moment and will give you free LP. But Riot are looking to nerf this in 12.18 because what they are doing is giving you more power if you're building attack damage Udyr, right? So a Q-Max. And this probably won't make him that great in the top lane because he'll be more killable. And to be honest, I think Udyr in the jungle role will just be a lot better with this build. That's why Udyr in the top lane has gone down all the way to C tier because Demonic Embrace, that's making him so broken at the moment with an R-Max, is not going to be as OP. And as far as the most broken champions, guys, you can play in the top lane in 12.18. Aatrox with Eclipse, he is not getting nerfed. Don't know why. Darius, not getting nerfed as well. Don't know why. And Set, because of the buffs from last patch, especially with your face break of the slow going up, been amazing for him. His win rates have improved by a couple of % across every single elo. And as far as underrated champions go, we have Graves, Lilia, Rengar, and Rumble, and you guys know the drill by now. We will elaborate on why these picks are underrated, and we'll give you the builds and runes and all that tech you need to know in a future video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Now, heading to the mid lane here, the other solo role, let's talk about the most broken champions. So we have Kassadin, Vex, and Zed. Now, Vex and Zed continue to be broken from last patch, and they're not getting nerfed in 12.18. This is obviously really good for them ever since Vex's Q has been buffed and Zed is E's energy going down, and also the Scorch buff as well for Zed. Well, these two champions really are the top two, but Kassadin is joining them because of the buffs from last patch to your Q's cooldown and also to the mana cost. This has made your laning phase just easier to navigate out of, so you can get to level 16, you can get to your item spikes and actually take over a game and play the game. This is why Kassadin in every single elo, by the way, is classified as an S+ tier champion according to those stats websites, that he is alongside Vex and Zed. Now, as far as the champions in the mid lane go, guys, who got changed in 12.18, well, we kind of mentioned Nocturne, and honestly, that's really about it. The mid lane meta is really going to be exactly the same what it is for 12.17, for 12.18 as well. So because Azir has been really nerfed, this is why he's in Rise tier, along with Rise. Please don't pick these champions in solo queue. Other champions you might see a lot in pro play, so stuff like Ahri, right? Stuff like Orianna, maybe Victor, Silas as well. These champions you are going to see so much of, because none of them, remember, are getting buffed or nerfed, so they're maintaining all of their strength and power. But as far as other champions you might want to consider picking in 12-18, there's Gragas in the mid lane. Orianna in the mid lane as well should be picked a lot more, so I know I just mentioned her in terms of the world stage, but she should be picked a lot more in solo queue. Her win rate is actually really good, and we'll dive into all of these in a future video, of course. But we also have Rumble, we have Set because of the buffs. He's kind of like Renekton in a way, and because of the Renekton nerfs, I would highly recommend not picking Renekton mid. You can still maybe pick him to counter stuff like Yone and Yasuo, attack damage, close range champions, but Set honestly just does a better job because he's innately stronger. We also have Tristana because of the buffs a couple of patches ago, really good into her mobile mages, has a lot of kill threat. We also have Zoe because, well, she's just underrated. I don't know why her pick rate is as low as it is. Yes, I understand the meta, and this is why we're not seeing her in pro play, is more about durability, I guess, and actually fights going long. So it's less about just landing your bubble and blowing up one target. It's more about actual DPS, right, and putting out damage during a team fight, and because Zoe is very skill shot oriented, she's fallen out of favor a little bit. But in solo queue, that environment is still very much about jumping onto one target and killing them and catching out your enemies who are making mistakes. Zoe's a great champion to do that on. So those were the top and mid lane tier lists, guys, for 12-18. Now what about the jungle? We're heading into the jungle. I'm not going to talk about two of these champions too much, these being Bel'Veth and Master Yi. They are still incredibly broken. Please just pick them. But if you have a little bit more self-respect, picking Fiddlesticks, great choice. Ever since his Crowstorm got buffed and his Q's fear duration, the Scarecrow has been harvesting LP. Also, if we think about Udyr, so I know I mentioned the changes earlier, a Q-Max, that's going to help his clear speed, and honestly just his bruiser build. So if you are building attack damage items, Udyr is going to be a real force, and because his clear is so quick and healthy, and because he beats a lot of junglers as well, so if we think about stuff like Trundle, right, who's picked a lot, especially in pro play, Udyr really dumpsters it. He loves playing against melee champions because he's very hard to beat in a 1v1. Now, as far as junglers who are getting changed in 12-18, well, the first of these is Lee Sin. So the Blind Monk, your HP growth is increasing, so as you level up, you're getting more HP. This is going to help your scaling. Also, your W's Omni Vamp that you receive, so the second part of it, this is actually increasing at later ranks, which is also nice, so this might help you during your clear speed, of course, and during team fights as well. And I kind of understand these changes because Lee Sin, if he does get overbuffed, he will be picked and banned non-stop at Worlds. So maybe we'll see a bit more Lee Sin at Worlds, I'm sure we will, but in solo queue, I still think he's going to be pretty bad. These changes are not significant enough to move him away from the C tier. Now, a couple of other junglers getting changed. We've already talked about Nocturne, but we should also talk about Hecarim here. So what's happening is that your Q is getting nerfed pretty much in every single way. So the bonus AD ratio down 5%. The ramp damage is also down 1%. The W's healing is also nerfed by 5% and scaling less off each 100 bonus AD you have. This means that Hecarim, so the damage, the healing, the sustain, it's not going to be good as it was. And to be honest, across all elos, Hecarim really wasn't performing that incredibly well. In higher elos, yes, okay, the champion might be a bit oppressive, but he's only got like a 49% win rate when we take into account bronze and silver and maybe even gold. And these changes, because there are a lot of nerfs here, they're probably just going to make him a B tier champion across the board. So that's why Hecarim is of course in B tier. Now the other jungler getting nerfed in 12-18, this is Red Kayn, so the RAS version, and you can see that alongside Shadow Assassin, he is in B tier. So what's happening for Kayn is that your Q, the HP percentage ratio, so each 100 bonus AD you have from your items, you are dealing 1.5% less damage. But it's not really 1.5%, this is really around a 30% damage nerf, and this means that for Kayn, well, it's just going to affect your scaling, right? So as you get to like 3, 4, 5 major items, and you do have a lot of attack damage, you are going to be dealing less damage with your Q. So this is a hefty nerf for Red Kayn, and guys, if you main any of these champions who are getting nerfed or maybe buffed in 12-18, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. And no doubt lots of you are happy that RAS Red Kayn is no longer going to be dominating the Rift. Now moving on, of course, to the last roles in the game. So first of all, we have the AD carry role, and as you can see in Broken Tier, we have Caitlyn, Draven, Misfortune, Samira. Caitlyn is here because of the buffs a couple of patches ago to your headshots damage and your passive. That made Caitlyn really good. Also because of the changes in 12-15 to poke, right? So sustain just makes poke better. Now Draven is here because he's so innately strong. Very few champions that actually beat him, but if you do want to pick Draven, I'd highly recommend banning the other broken champion, this being Misfortune. And even though Misfortune is getting nerfed in 12-18, so your attack damage growth down by 0.3, your HP growth is also down, so your scaling not going to be as good. But Misfortune during the laning phase still going to be strong, and with that Kraken Slayer collector press the attack setup, probably still going to 1v9 games. And she also doesn't have many champions that do well into her, but maybe one champion is Samira, the other broken champion. And honestly, ever since Riot gave you attack damage per level and also more lifesteal in your Q, because because they buffed the attack damage in it, this has made Samira a really good mid to late game champion, even if you don't get snowballing in the early game. But we have to mention here, guys, that Miss Fortune is not the only AD carry getting changed in 12-18, so another one is Ashe. So your Q's attack speed, this is actually a buff, is going from 20 to 40% to 25 to 55%. Now, you're probably still going to max your W first, right, because you really need the cooldown to get lower and lower. But the Q attack speed buff, well, honestly, I'd probably just say it's nice. This is why Ashe is going to remain in A tier, so she's not even improving a tier because of this buff. I don't think it's going to be that significant, but it does help you out if you want to play attack damage Ashe. And the other AD carry getting changed in 12-18, guys, this is Kalista. So for Kalista, well, I think this champion is going to be dead because your base HP, and this is the only nerf, but it's so big, is going down by 40. So from 604 to 564. This is one of the lowest out of all the AD carries, and because Kalista is an early game champion, how can you play the early game as aggressively as before when you're lacking that HP, especially compared to other champions? This probably forces you to go D-Blade to start with, so still might not be that bad, but because the champion is so hard to pilot and this nerf, it is massive because it's nerfing the strongest point of your game, and in the mid to late game, let me just put it this way, if you don't have kills in the early game, it is over. You are not like a Samira, who doesn't actually need kills anymore to hit the mid to late game and be useful. You have to get kills early game, going to be harder to achieve on Kalista in 12-18. Just make sure you don't pick Ryze. Now, as far as the supports go, guys, well, exactly the same. Don't pick Ryze and don't pick Miss Fortune as well. Miss Fortune, much better as an AD carry. Yes, I understand she might be fun and kind of just easy to play as a support, but you're legit just using your E and that's it. Your other ability is completely useless. Now, as far as actual supports to play in terms of being broken, well, we have to mention Amumu, Janna, Renata, and Zyra. These aren't actually changing from 12-17. All of these champions are still going to be incredibly busted. Now, what about the supports who are getting changed in 12-18? Well, we kind of mentioned Nasus, so I could even throw him here and underrated, so maybe look out for him. But we also have to talk about Thresh. So Thresh is getting a couple of big buffs, your HP growth going up. This means that as the game progresses, you're going to be tankier. Also, your ease damage is going up a whopping 10 at rank 1 to 30 at rank 5. Now, I don't know if this will encourage Thresh players to actually max their E first, but it will definitely encourage them to max it, at latest anyway, second. So maybe after your Q. This really puts Thresh back on the map because that damage increase, well, it's going to give you a lot more kill potential. You land a death sentence into a box, play them into the box, that champ is probably going to die as long as you have teammates next to you. That's why Thresh is in underrated, and honestly, I think we will see him picked at Worlds. And the other support getting changed in 12-18, guys, this is Lulu, who's copping a few nerfs. And all of these, by the way, are to your W, so your polymorph or your speed up. So your movement speed, when you W an ally, this is going down to 25%. Also, the polymorph duration, so if you use your W on an enemy champion and they go polymorphed, they won't be polymorphed as long, especially at later ranks. So probably you just want to put 1 point in your W from this point onwards, and that's it, especially considering the Rider nerfing the cooldown at later ranks as well. So maybe the go now is to actually keep maxing your E, but then your Q afterwards, and leave your W to max it last. We'll obviously have to see what really works when 12-18 actually does hit the rift, but this is why Lulu is going down from broken or even S tier down to A tier. Still a good champion, your shield is still going to be very annoying to play against, you're still polymorphing champions as well for a decent amount of time, so she will still be good, especially with Shirelia's, the cooldown, the ability haste you get, but she is nerfed. So those were the tier lists, guys, for 12-18. Any questions, any thoughts you have, again, leave them in the comment section, and if you do want these videos to continue, please remember to leave a like down below, and until our next Season 12 upload, this has been a